Okay, so what are we covering this semester? Shout it out. Exodus, the book of Exodus, right? And last week we covered, Angel just said, the Passover, right? We covered the Passover, right, JC? Is that right?
I think so.
Okay. So tonight we're going to get into the namesake of the book of Exodus. We're going to cover the Exodus itself, the event of the Exodus. But before we really get into that, I want to share a little bit of a personal testimony, a little bit of my own story. By the way, if you don't know me, my name's Matthew. Before I share my personal story, you might need to know my name. I'm Matthew. A little bit of background. I was raised in a Christian home. My parents, they love the Lord very much. I was saved and I was baptized at a very young age. So what I want to share with you is when I was maybe 16 or 17 years old, high school age, I think as many people do, had an independent streak, maybe a little bit of rebellion within me. My heart was still soft towards the Lord, for sure. But I had a little bit of rebellion within me, some independence. And the reason I tell you that is because I had made the decision that I was no longer going to meet with the same group of believers that my parents were. I was not going to meet with their church group anymore. And so I had found a different group. There was a youth group. I had a lot of friends. And I would say maybe my pursuit of the Lord was more a pursuit of my friends than a pursuit of the Lord. But there was still some softness and some consideration. And this youth group that I was a part of, I would say it was, the focus was very much on evangelism, which is certainly wonderful. It was, I think the focus was, hey, you've got friends who probably don't go to church, maybe they're not saved. You should bring them to the youth group. We'll play games. We'll eat some pizza. Maybe they'll get saved, and that would be great, right? Wouldn't that be good, JC?
Totally.
That would be awesome. But I had this question. If our job as Christians is to go out and evangelize, which certainly is a noble goal, wouldn't you say that, Nas? That's something that we should do. We should go and announce the gospel. But if that's our primary goal, and I share this not to say I was right in thinking this or to say you should think this, but just my own personal testimony. I had this question. If that's our goal, is to go out and get people saved, what happens if we do a really, really good job and everybody on the planet gets saved, right? 8 billion people or whatever. That would be pretty fantastic, right, Bossy? Would that be awesome? But something inside of me still felt like that was empty. Like that was, not that it wasn't a noble goal, but something inside me was like, that's it? That's the goal of my Christian life? And I share that because at the time, nobody was able to give me an adequate answer to that question, an answer that would satisfy, I guess, that emptiness that I felt inside of me. And the reason I share that is because I think this semester, going through the book of Exodus, I think we will adequately answer that question. So let's jump into Exodus. Does anybody know what that word means? To leave? What else? Any other thoughts? To exit? Any other thoughts? JC, you can't answer. JC studied Greek. Nas, do you have a thought?
I wish I knew what it is.
It's okay. So this is two Greek words, ex, which means out, and odys, which means the way or the road. And so Exodus is not just to exit, but it's actually the way out, the way in which we leave. So the story of the Exodus, I would say, well, the book of Exodus, it's 40 chapters long, and JC covered the Passover last week. That happens on chapter 12, and that covers our redemption, our salvation, our being saved. Is that right, JC? But there's still, 28 chapters after that? So what is with the rest of this book, right? Okay, so with that kind of background, let's get into the Exodus, the event of the Exodus. Who knows the story of the Exodus, the children of Israel leaving Egypt? Who knows that story? Dom, would you be okay standing up and giving us 30 seconds or less the story of the Exodus, starting from the Passover?
Okay, so the Passover happens, and then Pharaoh's like, all right, y'all can go. So he lets them go. And then they leave, and Pharaoh's like, wait, I actually don't want them to leave. So he chases them, and then Moses parts the Red Sea. They go past that. Pharaoh and all his army get swallowed up. They go in the wilderness. They get bread and water.
Okay, that's perfect. We can stop at the crossing of the Red Sea. Thank you. Give Dom a round of applause. Okay, so that's exactly right. Does that align with what everybody thinks the Exodus is? Is that about right? Okay, so to get this and maybe bring out all of the rich detail in this story, I want to walk through it. So I need 3 volunteers. Nas already said he wanted to volunteer. Dom, since you just spoke, you want to come up and volunteer for me? Thank you. You just got voluntold. One more. I need one more. All right, come on. All right, let's go over here. So, Nas, I promised that you wouldn't be Pharaoh. Actually, I think I said that you were going to be Pharaoh, but you're going to be Jehovah, okay? Okay, so you can stand right there. Logan, I need you to be the children of Israel.
Okay. Awesome.
You're right here. Dom, who are you now?
Pharaoh.
You're Pharaoh. And you're Pharaoh's armies, okay? All right, so you come stand over here on the other side of Logan. Okay, so we're going to start this little illustration at the Passover. So the Passover, right? You are eating the Passover. You've got the blood over the doorpost. So Jehovah, you're going to come through. You're going to pass over Israel. And then you're going to strike Pharaoh and all of the firstborn. Got him, right? Thank you. You can go back over here. Okay, so you're eating the Passover, right?
Correct.
And you were here last week, right?
Yeah.
So you remember the Passover. You had to eat the Passover in a very particular way, right? With your loins girded, sandals on your feet, a staff in your hand. You're ready to go, and you're eating in haste, right? You're eating in haste. Okay. Now, Pharaoh and his armies and all of the Egyptians, all of their firstborn just died, right, in the Passover. And he says, all of us are going to die if we don't let Israel go. And so he's actually going to drive you out. So you drive him out, push him out of here, get him gone. All right, perfect. So you're still over here. You're in your palace. So you just got driven out by the Egyptians, and you're gonna go a day's journey, and you're gonna camp right here. Okay. So you've set up camp. So I want you to think about the events that just took place. So you've been a slave in Egypt for 430 years. You and your father and your grandfather on back, right? Everything you have ever known is in Egypt. There is a God that you don't even know that well that you're following. So Jehovah has appeared. He's a pillar of cloud. Okay, you feel like a pillar of cloud? Put your arms in the air. You're a pillar of cloud. And so Israel is following this pillar of cloud, and the pillar of cloud is guiding him on his path, right? And at night, he's a pillar of fire. But you're camped right now.
Oh, yeah,
So this is the night after the Passover, and I want you to just think what's going on in your mind, right? You've just left everything you have ever known, a life of slavery, but a life of security. Pharaoh and his armies, the highest power in all of the world at this point, as a country, right? All of their firstborns just died. They are angry, right? They just drove you out. How do you think you slept that night? And not only that, that's what's behind you. What's in front of you? Complete unknown, right? There's this God that you don't know anything about that's just a giant pillar of fire in the sky. What's that about, right? Thank you. You're Bernie. You can do jazz hands. Okay, and he's leading you somewhere. You don't know where. You've heard some stories passed down that this God, Jehovah, has promised, thank you, you're doing a great job, has promised to your fathers that they're going to give you this land. I guess you're going there, right? So you're not sleeping that well. You're going to have what the Bible calls a night of watching. So if you've got your verse sheets, could somebody read for me in this first paragraph in Exodus 12, verse 42 there? Anybody? Just 42. That's perfect. So it's a night of watching, right? So they realize the gravity of their situation. Surely this is a sober kind of evening, a night of consideration. Where are we coming from? Where are we going? Right? Surely this is a sober night. Okay. So then the next day, the pillar of cloud, the pillar of fire, you start moving. You're going this way. You pack up camp, you follow him. At a certain point, though, you're going to make a turn. You're going to go this way. Okay, perfect. So now Israel's following him this way. He's turned this direction. All right, stop, pause. So Pharaoh, I don't know how long of a time has passed here, probably a couple days at the most. I don't know if Egypt's super flat and he can see them a couple days journey out, or if he's got scouts that are reporting back where Israel's going. That's probably more likely. But you're gonna hear from your scout, hey, Israel made a turn. They're going the wrong way, and they're gonna get trapped next to the sea. They're not gonna be able to go anywhere. And so you're gonna say, what am I doing? I just let my entire workforce go? That was dumb. Keep in mind, your firstborn son died a few days ago, and you drove them out. Your heart is going to change, right? You're going to gather up all your armies. You're going to saddle up on your chariot, and you're going to take off after them. Okay. So actually, see if I have this verse on here. Maybe not. That's okay. You're going to overtake them. So you actually catch them. Okay? So you're the pillar of fire. You're leading them this way. You're following them. And you see Pharaoh and his army coming. You probably see a cloud of sand. And you look at Moses. Oh, do you want to read it for us?
And the Egyptians pursued after them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army. And they overtook them as they encamped by the sea.
All right, bad news. Pharaoh overtook them. He caught them. Okay? So you're camped by the sea. But what happens is Jehovah, the pillar of cloud, you're in front of them, you're going to come behind them, and you're going to get between them. And so this cloud that they've been following comes behind them and gets between the camps. And the Bible says that the camps didn't come near each other all night. And so it says that to the Egyptians on the Egyptian side, the cloud is darkness. This is probably the darkest night these people have ever seen. But this way, these people you were guiding, now you're behind them, protecting them, and you're a light shining in the direction that they're going to go. So you're shining and illuminating their path forward. Okay. So Moses, you're going to be Moses now. Okay. You're going to come, you're going to raise your hand and your staff over the Red Sea, and it's going to part. Awesome. All right. And you and the people, you're going to walk across the Red Sea, and you're going to follow them. Jehovah's going to confuse you. Your chariot wheels are going to slide all over the place. The people make it to the other side. You raise your hands back over, and what happens? Sploosh! Sploosh. You got splooshed, I'm sorry. You drowned. You drowned in the Red Sea. You're dead. And what are you going to do? Okay? You look back across the Red Sea. And I want you to read this verse for me. Verse 30 here. This is Exodus 14:30.
Thus Jehovah saved Israel that day out of the hands of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore.
So Israel looks back over and they see the Egyptians that were just chasing them. They're dead on the seashore. Okay, thank you. Give these guys a round of applause. Okay, so that's the story of the Exodus. Is it fresh in your mind? Do you have all the details fresh? I hope so. Oop, wrong way. Okay, so what does this mean? What does this story mean? Can we all together read these verses in 1 Corinthians chapter 10? Ready, go. Okay. So this is Paul writing. He says that all of these things that happened to the children of Israel, they occurred as examples to us. And specifically, he talks about them being baptized in the cloud and in the sea. Drink real quick. And so that's them crossing the Red Sea. That's the picture of baptism. And so with this in mind, this is starting in Exodus chapter 12. That's the Passover, 13, 14. And then actually chapter 15 of Exodus, if you've never read chapter 15 of Exodus, it's when the children of Israel, they're standing on the opposite shore and they sing a song. They sing the song of Moses. And actually the lyrics to the song that they sang is Exodus chapter 15. It's a pretty cool little fact. You can go and read the lyrics of this song that they sang. You should do that. It's cool. Also, it's a great chapter, so you should read it. But this whole event that has happened has taken place as an example for us. So, the Passover, the picture of the Passover is our initial salvation, our judicial salvation. That's a fancy word, but it's our salvation, our salvation from hell, our salvation from eternal perdition. That's what we generally say when we were saved, right? Let's see if somebody else can read this verse. Here in the Exodus 14 section, can somebody read verse 13? Anybody?
But Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and see the salvation of Jehovah, which he will accomplish for you today."
So the salvation of Jehovah. But they were just saved in the Passover, right? Because God came and judged Egypt, and they had the blood on the doorpost, and he passed over them. But now they're being saved again. So what is that? Well, they're being saved out of Egypt. Because actually, there was no time wasted between the Passover when they were saved and when God began to lead them out of Egypt. There was no wasted time. Actually, I think in a certain sense, and don't take me wrong here, in a certain sense, Satan, Pharaoh, doesn't even care so much if you believe in Jesus. Initially, he drove them out of Egypt, but it was a couple days later, he had just lost his firstborn son, and he goes and gets him to try to get them back. So certainly, Satan would probably prefer you not believe in Jesus. But in a certain sense, he doesn't care so much if you just believe in Jesus. But when you try to get out, when you try to leave Egypt, that's when he pursues. And he tries to capture you and bring you back. I want to impress you. Many people, I think, have this thought that I'm saved, that's good enough. I can keep doing my thing. I can keep doing all of my worldly things. And I'm saved. Maybe I'll go to church on Sunday, right? But if you haven't passed through the Red Sea, if you haven't passed through the experience of baptism and really gotten out of Egypt, Pharaoh might say to you, oh, you went through the Passover experience? You believe in Jesus? Okay, I just need you to go over here and make some more bricks, right? That's what Israel was doing. They were making bricks for Pharaoh. And so, in a certain sense, like I said, Satan doesn't mind so much if we've been through the Passover experience. But in order to really cause Satan and his armies and his kingdom to suffer a loss, we need to get out. We need to go out of Egypt. Okay. You've got a map on the back of your page here. And I want to kind of orient you. So this is a map of the Near East. So this is the Mediterranean Sea. This is the Red Sea. This is the Nile River, which means this is Egypt, right? This is the Arabian Peninsula. Modern day Israel is right here. Are you tracking with me? Are you oriented? Okay. So Israel, when they leave Egypt, they leave from about right here. You can mark that on your map if you've got a pen. Right here, right below the Nile Delta is about where they are. And the land that God promised them is right up here. This is modern day Egypt. Actually, Jerusalem would be about right here. So if you've got a pen, you can mark that too. So if you know the story of Exodus, you know that the children of Israel ended up wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. This is about a 10 days journey. Okay? So where on earth were they? Where were they going for 40 years? Let's see. Who do I want to call on? Angel. Will you read for me Exodus 13:17?
Now when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines,
Yeah.
although that was near, for God said, perhaps the people will change their mind when they see war and will return to Egypt.
That's maybe a small detail, but that is a very significant detail. Remember, God was leading them as the pillar of cloud by day, the pillar of fire by night. And he starts to lead them this way up towards the land that he promised them. But right in here is the land of the Philistines. So at a certain point, God says, I'm not going to take them that way because I'm afraid that my people are going to see war and they're going to return to Egypt. And he didn't want them in Egypt. He didn't want them in the world. He wanted them to be separated to him so that they could be useful to him and so that he could dwell with them. And so what does he do? He doesn't take them this way. Also, if they went this way, there was the potential that Pharaoh and his armies would just catch them, right? So what he did, he didn't take them this way. It's not clear exactly the route that they took, but either they went this way down to the Red Sea, or potentially they came across this way and they crossed here. So I want you to mark here and here the route where they started and where they were going. Draw an arrow. And then I want you to cross that arrow out. They didn't go that way. And next to that arrow, I want you to just write the reference Exodus 13:17. So if you remember what Exodus means, what I said at the beginning, Aaron, what does Exodus mean? The way out. The way that God took the children of Israel out of Egypt, his odos, his way, was not the obvious way. I think this is a point that we can probably apply to our daily lives, that God's way is not maybe the most obvious or the most efficient way. Hardly ever, right? Because if he had taken the children of Israel this way, they would never have made it to the good land that he promised them. Pharaoh would have caught them or they would have turned around. Actually, it's an important point. We may cover it later this semester. Even after Israel crossed the Red Sea, there was many times some of them wanted to go back to Egypt. And you know what? They didn't have that option. That was no longer an option for them. Why? Because they had crossed the Red Sea. Pharaoh had gone in after them, and Pharaoh and all of his armies died and drowned in the Red Sea. So Egypt, all of Pharaoh's armies, and the world was dead to them. Even you could say they were dead to the world. The way back to Egypt was closed off to them. Maybe on the map there's still a way back. They couldn't go back. They go back, they're all dead, right? The next Pharaoh's going to kill them all. There is no way that they can ever go back to Egypt. And so they're standing on the shore before they cross, and they're terrified. And they're saying, actually, this is recorded in the Bible. They say, Moses, did you bring us out here to die? Were there not enough graves in Egypt? Right? But then they cross, and they look back, and they see Pharaoh and his armies dead on the seashore, and they sing a song of praise. In one night, their tone changed. They went through the experience of baptism, and they sing this song of praise, which I have here on the bottom of your first sheet, Exodus 15. That's not 1 through 7. That's like 1 and 2. JC, will you read those verses for us?
Then Moses and the children of Israel sang this song to Jehovah and spoke, saying, I will sing to Jehovah, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and its rider he has cast into the sea. Jah is my strength and song, and he has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him. My Father's God, and I will exalt him.
Awesome. That's the first verse of the song that they sang, standing on the shore. Okay? So they're on the shore. Everything that they have known is dead. They see Pharaoh and his armies dead on the seashore, and in front of them is a wilderness with no promise of food, no promise of water, still following a God they barely know, to a place that they hardly know exists. But they're singing a song of praise to Jehovah after having gone through this experience, because they have this realization. I don't know if they have this realization or not. I think they have this realization that they have passed from the realm of their slavery in Egypt into a different realm. They're no longer in Egypt, right? And they are in a realm where they can be useful to God. And there's a strong dividing line there that they can never go back from. So, how am I doing on time? All right, I need to close this up. I want to end by sharing a little personal testimony that I have of the power of baptism. So like I told you, I was born in a Christian family, baptized at a very young age, saved and baptized. I had the experience that I told you about in high school. And this is a couple years later. This is maybe my freshman or my sophomore year of college. That little bit of softness that I still had to the Lord was gone. Inside my being, I was just rock hard, full of rebellion, full of independence. I was finished with the Lord. I wanted nothing to do with the Lord. I wanted to get away from the Lord. Actually, I was angry with the Lord that I would be born into a situation where, in my thought, I didn't have a choice on whether or not I would pursue him. This was the lot that I was given, and I was angry about that. I had, I guess, within my being, a lot of unrest, no peace. My inner being was in turmoil. I was angry and full of rebellion. I just wasn't at rest. There was no peace inside me. And so whenever I would come back during this time in my life, back to my home, back to my apartment, school, work, whatever I'd been doing that day, I would come home and I would be about to turn into my apartment, but something inside me, I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't make that turn because there was no rest within me. I couldn't go and physically rest in my apartment. I just couldn't do it. And so almost unconsciously, I would just keep driving past my apartment. I would drive around another 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes until my being had come to some kind of rest and I felt that I could go home. That's not how I would have described it at the time, but that was the reality of what was happening. And this happened pretty regularly. I would have these experiences. And I remember very particularly on one of these drives, I was angry with the Lord. I was talking to the Lord. Why won't you just let me go? I don't want anything to do with you, right? This was my heart towards the Lord. And I had this very particular and very tangible realization that I will never escape the Lord. I will never escape the Lord. I had all of this stuff within me. I was doing all of these Egyptian things. I was not somebody you would probably want to be around. But I had this realization deep in my being, I will never escape the Lord. Or if I try, I will never be happy and I will never have rest. And that was the beginning of my turn back to the Lord. I tell you that story because that is the power of baptism. I had come all the way back to the Red Sea, and I was looking back across, longing to be back in Egypt, right? I didn't want anything that the Lord had for me behind me. I didn't want any of it. I wanted to get back across, but I couldn't. There was a strong dividing line there. I had been baptized. I could not go back to Egypt. I had been, you could say that was my positional salvation. I had been moved from Egypt to the kingdom of God, and there was no way back. Now within me, there was obviously still a lot of things that the Lord had to deal with. There was some dispositional salvation that had to take place. And if that resonates with you at all, come back next week. We're going to touch that. I think that's the normal progression of the Christian experience. But baptism was really, truly my salvation and really, truly my way back to the Lord. So I want to impress on you, if you haven't been baptized, I hope you wouldn't feel pressure from me, but I hope you would have some conversation with the Lord about if you should be baptized. And the way baptism is presented in the Bible is a salvation experience followed by baptism. So I hope that if you haven't been baptized after your salvation, you would consider to do that. And if you have been baptized, don't think that this message is not for you. I pray that you would see the reality of your baptism, what has happened coming out of Egypt, and I hope that you would live in the reality of your baptism. No longer as part of Egypt, having nothing to do with Egypt, but being now fully transitioned into the kingdom of God. I hope you would fully realize that you have crossed over. Okay, I think I'm done there. Whoever can give the announcements.